How many of you are excited for the new Frederic Malle release, Acne Studios? Well, I've got it in my hand here, recently picked it up, and I'm going to talk to you about this one, but did you guys hear the news? Frederic Malle is actually stepping down from his own brand. This is pretty big. This is really, really big. In fact, when he came to San Francisco in 2019 at Barney's, and for the launch of Rose and Queer, I asked him, and a lot of people asked, if he's going to stick around, now that the brand's part of Estee Lauder. He said, I'll be there always. But now it seems like he is stepping down. Well, I was going to do a video on Acne Studios alone, but we're going to talk about Frederic Malle also stepping down from his own brand. So if you want to find out about the new Acne Studios fragrance from Frederic Malle and also about him leaving his own brand, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about Frederic Malle today, a brand that I've been a big fan of since 2012. That's when I first discovered the brand. Although I had seen it here and there in passing prior to that, didn't really dig in until I got my nose on Portrait of a Lady. And I always mention this story. Walked into Barney's to buy a bottle of Nasomato's Black Afghano, and a few people were spritzing Portrait of a Lady there. At the time, I didn't have a lot of budget for fragrances, and I had just gotten into niche perfumery. And so I didn't buy it at that time, but I went back 2 weeks later and bought a bottle of Portrait of a Lady because it left a major impression on me. So I've been a fan since then. And as of late, I don't think the brand's fragrances are all that great. My favorite of the last 3 or 4 fragrances has been Synthetic Jungle, which they just changed the name to Synthetic Nature. So I always wondered, has Frederic Malle been doing creative direction at the brand, even though the brand was part of Estee Lauder since 2015, is when Estee Lauder bought Frederic Malle, and so at that time they also bought By Kilian, they bought Le Labo. So these 3 big niche houses were acquired by Estee Lauder. And so they've been with him since then, around that time. And so I thought to myself, how long is Frederic Malle going to stay around? And yes, when we met at his event at Barney's for the launch of Rose and Queer and the Moon, at that time there was a discussion with a few people and he mentioned he was going to be with the brand for quite a long time. So obviously the time has come for him to step down. So let's go ahead and talk about Acne Studios first. I smelled this in passing when I was in France, and I thought to myself, it really does remind me of a few fragrances I'm familiar with, especially number 22 by Chanel, Blanche for sure by Byredo, and also as of late, a favorite brand of mine has a fragrance called Couleur Primaire, this one right here. Out of the 3, I'm actually out of the 4, this is the least expensive. And this is a really great fragrance. If you haven't gotten your nose on Couleur Primaire by Les Eaux Primordiales, you should definitely get your nose on. The price points are, with the Acne Studios, it's 100 ml for $470. With the number 22, a 200 ml is $500. With the Blanche, 100 ml is $320. And then finally, with the Couleur Primaire, it's 100 ml for $220. So this is the best deal, because 200 ml of Couleur Primaire would be $440, whereas a 200 ml of the Chanel number 22 is $500. So the best deal out of all of these for me, when you do the price differences, is the Les Eaux Primordiales Couleur Primaire, which to me I find very similar. But again, this is the only time I've smelled this so far. I haven't got my nose on this again since that first time at the very end of March. So this is fairly new to me, but I understand it's an aldehydic fragrance. And what's the deal with aldehydes lately? Is this a trend now? Aldehydes are really popping up in a lot of fragrances, especially for new look with the Dior launch in December, January. So now we've got this one, and I'd see that also this Couleur Primaire has been pretty popular as a niche fragrance in France. So anyway, just a thought that maybe aldehydes are making a comeback. It's clean. Aldehydes tend to provide a very clean soapiness. But before we talk about the fragrance, let's quickly read this article about Frederic Malle stepping down. Frederic Malle announced on April 18 that he will be leaving his brand Additions de Parfum Frederic Malle at the end of June. So it's coming around the corner really fast. Founded in 2000 and acquired by the Estée Lauder companies in 2015, the brand was known for its Malle's unique approach to niche fragrances. He cultivated a roster of noses to develop the label's scents. The perfumery's noses, whose names are credited on the bottles of each fragrance they develop, have included names like designer Albert Elbaz, which I have here. It's superstitious, signed by Mr. Frederic Malle. First time I met him. And then with perfumers like Dominique Ropion, who developed the brand's cult Portrait of a Lady and Carnal Flower scents. Most recently, the brand teamed up with Acne Studios to create the fashion label's first fragrance, which was released on April 17th, which is right here. Estée Lauder Company's executive group president Stéphane de la Faverie said in a statement that the group will continue to honor Malle's inspiration in the future. Well, let's hope they do that. But I personally think Frederic Malle had already checked out. Like during the pandemic, I think he was probably pretty much checked out. Because the fragrances, I have a feeling most likely Synthetic Jungle was in the works. And it was delayed to launch because they didn't launch anything in 2020. Nobody really launched anything in 2020. And Synthetic Jungle came out in 2021. And I feel like that one is pretty solid. But since then, Uncut Gem and Heaven Can Wait have been pretty boring launches for me. And this one, let's go ahead and see. So this is Acne Studios Par Frederic Malle. If you guys don't know Acne Studios and you're wondering about the name, it's a fashion house from Sweden. So a fashion house from Sweden collaboration. This is the third, I think, the third collaboration with a fashion house. They've done the Dries Van Noten, got discontinued. It's funny though, Dries Van Noten is also stepping down from his own fashion brand, and Frederic Malle is stepping down from his own perfume brand. It's funny that they've collabed on a fragrance as well. The Dries Van Noten Par Frederic Malle was discontinued probably like 4, maybe 5 years ago. Superstitious with Albert Elbaz. Really great fragrance created by Dominique Ropion. It was a rosy, aldehydic once again, patchouli? Yeah, rosy aldehydic patchouli fragrance. Really loved it, but this one got discontinued after the passing of Albert Elbaz. He's a fashion designer. So this is the third collaboration, I think. I could be missing one, but I've gone through the list. I don't see any other collaborations. So 100 ml, $470, eau de parfum concentration, quite pricey. I would call this an aldehydic floral powdery fragrance created by Suzy La Helley. Do you guys know this perfumer? I've mentioned her name a couple times on the channel now, along with Annick Menardo, who have created the elixir version of Boss Bottled and Eau de Parfum, or the Parfum version prior to that, and the new Triumph elixir from Boss Bottled. So this is the first time I'm seeing her name alone, because in those fragrances I saw the name with the famous perfumer Annick Menardo. So this is must have been some kind of a great collaboration between Frederic Malle and Suzy La Helley, and we'll see how the fragrance turns out. Although, as I said, it's aldehydic with featuring notes of aldehydes, frankincense, orange blossom, peach skin, rose, sandalwood, vanilla, violets, and white musk. When you think of those notes, it does remind me of these fragrances. They come off very soapy, because aldehydic notes come off of very soapy to me. And is that what Acne Studios wanted from this fragrance? A very soapy fragrance? And the thing is also, why didn't the brand launch their own fragrances without the collaboration of a Frederic Malle? So I don't know how this kind of came about. Maybe they didn't want to be owning their own fragrances, because usually fashion houses do launch fragrances, because I think the reason why they discontinued Dries Van Noten Par Frederic Malle is because he launched his own fragrances. So we'll see what happens. I'm not very familiar with Acne Studios' fashion. I do see some of them being very trendy and really cool looking pieces of clothing. So most likely this smell does match their design aesthetic and everything. So let's go ahead and open this up. This comes in a white box. Nothing like this before with Frederic Malle. Inside it is kind of a salmon colored pink. And then typical of the bottles or boxes of Frederic Malle, they don't come in a cellophane. And there's that. Comes with some tissue on top, and it's wrapped, and the bottle's wrapped in it. But it's kind of cool because they've got this salmon colored thing that's in the box here under. So when you look at it, it does give you this kind of weird coloring situation thingy with the bottle. So it's typical of other Frederic Malle bottles, very plain. It's probably a stock bottle that they're using, which I kind of like these, like bottles that are not overly designed. I'm a simplistic kind of guy, so I do like the bottles. So I really do click with the brand itself. So let's go ahead and smell this. Have you guys gotten your nose on Acne Studios? Let me know. Put a comment down below, and also let me know what your thoughts are on Frederic Malle leaving his own brand. So he leaves his own brand, but the name stays with the Estee Lauder. How is it really Frederic Malle anymore? To let me know. So off the top, this does smell very aldehydic. I haven't put my nose on it, but what I've sprayed, it does smell aldehydic and also very floral. There's a lot of flowers I'm smelling. What are those flowers? And instantly laundry. Laundry, clean, fresh, soapy. It's the orange blossom and the rose giving us a lot of overdose of flowers. And probably the aldehydes are also created from flowers because they can create aldehydes from various ingredients in the world. So this is a very floral take. And I think it's the orange blossom aldehydic touch that's creating the soapiness. Because orange blossom and fragrances typically do create a soapy, laundry-like effect. Here it's overdosed with the aldehydes, because the aldehydes bring out the soapiness of the orange blossom. But you know what? There's some smoky touches running throughout it, but this is not overly smoky. The frankincense is there. I'm enjoying it now more than I enjoyed it in passing when I smelled it at one of the counters in France while I was there. Now let's put it on skin. On all of it. Let me know if you're a fan of this fragrance, what your thoughts are. What do you think about the price tag? It's quite pricey, $470 for 100 ml. Are you going to buy it? Are you going to wait this one out? Will you buy a decant or just skip it completely? Because there are alternatives out there, as I was mentioning. The Les Eaux Primordiales Color Primaire does smell like it, but to me, this Frederic Malle, Acne Studios Par Frederic Malle, is more floral than the Color Primaire. I think the Color Primaire and also Blanche are very similar. They do have similarities, and both of them are not necessarily very floral. But with the Acne Studios, I'm getting a lot of flowers. It's not just the aldehydes that's creating the soapiness. It's all the orange blossom and the rose as well. It's an aldehyde bomb for sure, and even on skin, it's much more soapier, which I like clean fragrances, and I feel like this will perform really great in the heat. It's very fresh, very clean, and in the heat of the summer, the sweatiness and the humidity, I think this clean effect, the clean feeling would be perfect for that kind of a situation. But everybody, wears fragrances differently. Try this one out if you're, excited about it, except, if you like the price tag as well, because it is quite pricey, because this $470 doesn't include tax, and with tax almost being 10%, this thing is over $500. So in Europe, I did notice that it was around $350 or $60. I can't remember exactly. It was a quick ask, but it's definitely less expensive in Europe, much more pricier here in the States, unfortunately. And again, it doesn't include tax, so figure out a way to get a promotion. When I bought this at Neiman's, they were having a gift card promotion, so I made $25. I mean, if I spent $500 plus, the tax doesn't count. I would have gotten $50, so it's not much. I'm just basically getting a $25 gift card on that particular fragrance. So let's go ahead and pause the video, and then I'll come back and tell you a little bit more about this one. But before I pause the video, let me talk a little bit more about the fragrances of Frederic Malle and the fact that Estee Lauder bought the brand in 2015. So in 2014, Frederic Malle launched two fragrances, the Night and Eau de Magnolia. The Night is Dominique Ropion, Eau de Magnolia is Carlos Bonayem. And it's the only Carlos Bonayem fragrance I enjoy from Frederic Malle, and I enjoy this guy's fragrances, but two of the fragrances that he did later for this brand, I'm not the biggest fan of. One I don't care for at all, one I like but I don't love. But these were launched before Estee Lauder bought the brand. In 2015, Monsieur and Cologne Indelible were launched. Monsieur is Bruno Jovanovic, and Cologne Indelible was Dominique Ropion. This Dries Van Noten Par Frederic Malle is also Bruno Jovanovic, and so he probably did two fragrances for the brand. I think it's just two. In 2016, it was Superstitious, and I believe that's the only fragrance that was launched in 2016 from the brand. So Superstitious is also Dominique Ropion. In 2017, we have two fragrances, Salgos by Fanny Bal, Promise by Dominique Ropion. Both really great fragrances. I enjoy both of those. And in 2018, we had two, and two of them by Carlos Bonayem, two of them I don't care for. It's Music for a While I enjoy, I don't really love. Dawn I don't care for whatsoever. It's a very expensive Middle Eastern Desert Gems fragrance. It's the one that's very smoky, incensey. It doesn't do it for me. It's not exciting. In 2019, there were two launches. It was Rosenqueer and The Moon. Both of them I really enjoy quite a bit. Really enjoy those fragrances. And then, remember I said in 2020, during the pandemic, nothing was launched. I have a feeling Synthetic Jungle was going to launch in 2020, but it was pushed back to 2021. I absolutely love Synthetic Jungle. It's one of my favorites from the house. And recently they renamed it to Synthetic Nature in 2024, which was just earlier this year. In 2022, Uncut Gem was launched. I felt the fragrance was fine, but it was overpriced. In fact, this Acne Studios is probably more than likely overpriced because it's really expensive for it. Yeah, so because of that, in my review, I said if they put this fragrance in a Cartier or an Hermes bottle, you know, the signature line, not any of their like expensive collections, I think I would be fine with it. But it was overly priced for what you get. And then in 2023, Jean-Claude Elena did Heaven Can Wait, and that one, I enjoyed the smell. It felt very soft, and it didn't have a lot of projection and longevity and things like that. So the last great fragrance for me from this house has been Synthetic Jungle, which just became Synthetic Nature. And then now we've got Acne Studios in 2024, launched just before Frederic Malle announces that he's stepping down. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on Acne Studios and Frederic Malle's stepping down. I'm going to pause the video and then come back. Okay, now that I've been wearing this fragrance, I'm really experiencing a lot of different things here. First off, it's an aldehydic balm. This is basically what you get with this fragrance. The smoky touches are there. They contrast through for sure. You're going to notice it, but it's not like really in your face. It's there to accentuate the aldehydic notes. There's also lots of orange blossom, and on skin it does get citrusy, not necessarily citrus florally, but for sure it's really, really potent with the orange blossom note, which is what's contributing to creating an aldehydic soap bomb here with the aldehydes and the orange blossom. Peach skin, or the peach note in general, there's a light fuzziness about it and a bit of fruitiness, but it's not overly fruity here whatsoever. Not at all. It's not a fruity fragrance, but you'll notice some coming in, just like the frankincense, even less than the frankincense, I think. It just is there to give you a light contrast here to the fragrance. It's not necessarily to create a peachy fragrance. For sure, there's the violet note in here. It creates the powdery effect here for me. And then of course the white musk. It's a very musky fragrance, and musk and white musk definitely really works wonderfully with aldehydic notes and orange blossom or citrusy notes. I think they work really great. And when this is drying down, it does get a bit creamy, woody, and then also a bit sweet and vanillic, but it's not something I would consider a vanillic fragrance, or it's just a nice meshing of sandalwood and vanilla. When it's drying down, you'll notice it, but in the end, you're dealing with a lot of orange blossom and aldehydes with this. They're still dominating, but at this time when it's drying down, you're seeing a nice mixture of all of these, even though the aldehydes and the orange blossom are pretty much what's dominating with that white musk note. It's a really, really great fragrance. I highly recommend it. But the only negative about this one is the price. price tag. It is outrageously priced once again, really, really outrageously priced. So this is going to turn off a lot of folks. But here's a couple of other things I can say about this one that might excite some of you. It does have great projection. It's loud. Like compared to Heaven Can Wait, the last fragrance, this is beastlier. But it's a kind of note or a kind of fragrance that I wouldn't really consider like overwhelming beastliness, because it's clean, it's soapy, and I don't consider these kind of fragrances to be overwhelming. Like some fragrances that could be like ambers and woods and vanillas and leathers, if they're performing beastly, they'll come off really overwhelmingly. Here, even though this has a heft to it, it's clean notes, it's aldehydes, it's orange blossom and things like that. It's not necessarily wearing like it's overwhelming. It's just a very clean, super crisp, clean aldehydic fragrance. One thing I also forgot to mention, there's that fizziness that is definitely trademark or, you know, prominent with aldehydic fragrances. You'll really notice the sparkling effervescence or fizziness when you're wearing it. But I recommend this one. Just if you have the budget, go check it out, or just go see it if you like it. And then I think maybe sometimes people might think aldehydes are just too similar to a Chanel fragrance, because Chanel uses them quite a bit, especially here with number 22 or even in number 5. Do they smell similar? I think there are some similarities to Chanel number 22, but I find this to be a bit more old school and a bit more ambery, because there's this kind of warmth under here with this fragrance that's giving me more of an amber vibe with aldehydes. Rather here in the Acne Studios, it's more just freshness and soapiness. Even though it has the sandalwood and the vanilla, I'm not getting that with the Acne Studios. It's not about the vanilla and the sandalwood is what I'm trying to say. Here though, with this fragrance, it's quite present for me, even though it is very aldehydic and does remind me of the Acne Studios. But if you think this is too pricey, I recommend you try both of these, because they are less expensive. The color Primaire, which is the least expensive, as I said, and Blanche, which is a little more expensive. It's $100. It's approximately 100. No, the Blanche is for a 320, and the Acne Studios is 470. So it's still pretty less priced compared to the Acne Studios, but still, when you want something really less expensive, the color Primaire, as I said, was the least expensive if you're looking for an aldehydic, soapy, clean fragrance. Anyway, those are my thoughts on today's video with Acne Studios, and also stepping down, Frederic Malle stepping down. What are your thoughts? Do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.